A controversial new aid system in Gaza, backed by Israel and the United States, has opened its first distribution hubs. The so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said 170 truckloads of food had been delivered. Many of Gaza's 2 million residents are facing severe food shortages after Israel's nearly 3-month blockade to pressure Hamas. Critics, including the United Nations, say the new system will stop food getting to hungry Palestinians. Security and logistics at the hubs are handled by armed U.S. private contractors, and Palestinians must show ID to receive rations. The hubs replace aid distribution networks coordinated by the UN. Israel says its new system is needed to stop Hamas stealing supplies. DW's Fanny Facsar joins us now from Jerusalem. Fanny, is this new system going to help ease the humanitarian crisis?
Obviously, it has just been started to be implemented, so we just have to see how this operation unfolds. But even before the implementation started, there was a lot of criticism, not only by United Nations, but several UN agencies, in fact, saying that the very root of the problem here is that we're speaking about the US-backed Israeli aid mechanism. So Israel, being party to this war, is involved, meaning that they do have the upper hand when it comes to distributing this aid and when it comes to the logistics and the entire operation. So as a result, United Nations has made very clear that they do not want to be part of this system. And then, of course, looking at the numbers that we have received, that apparently 170 trucks have entered Gaza, which we cannot independently verify at this point. It is nowhere enough, given that at least you need 500 trucks per day to get into the Gaza Strip, not speaking about trucks that you need just with fuel, etc., to help the people in need. But while there's so much focus on Gaza, and righteously so, it's very important, of course, to point out that there are other parts here in this shows that they do have the upper hand, and that is, for example, right now playing out in the occupied East Jerusalem, which is considered for Israel being part of Israeli soil, while it is internationally not recognized being so. But the result is pretty much the same, and that is that they have just recently shut down several UNRWA schools, and we went to the occupied East Jerusalem to find out what that actually means to students who wanted to finish their school year, but now it very much looks like that's not going to happen. Let's have a look.
These children have a lot of time on their hands now. At this hour, they'd normally be in class studying for final exams before the school year ends.
Before they closed our school, my dream was simply to continue studying. Now we don't even have the right to go to school. This is tyranny.
Mohammed is one of about 800 students affected by the recent shutdown of UNRWA schools in East Jerusalem. Locals were filming when Israeli police came to the schools.
This is an order from the Education Ministry.
But the school does not belong to the municipality or the Ministry of Education.
UNRWA operates under a UN mandate, but Israel has shut down its operations in Israeli-annexed East Jerusalem, where it claims jurisdictional control. 3 of the 6 UNRWA schools are in Shufat camp, which was built after the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Life here is marked by poverty, unemployment, and frequent Israeli raids.
The closure of the schools has made a bleak end to the school year for hundreds of students, their families and teachers 2 months early. We wanted to hear from families affected, but many told us they were too worried to talk with us. They said they were scared of reprisals afterwards if they did.
Education is a fundamental right for everyone in Israel, regardless of their religion or ethnicity. But neither the Israeli municipality nor the Education Ministry agreed to grant us an interview. Officially, they say, they aim to integrate Palestinians into Israeli public schools. That is not an option for the students, says Munir Marijeh, an advocate for Palestinians in East Jerusalem. Apart from logistical obstacles to accessing Israeli public schools, it's also about the different curriculum and about identity.
It's not alternatives, basically. There are no alternatives. Israel is trying to impose colonial education. This colonial education seeks to control the minds of the Palestinians and prospectively to annihilate the longed-for desire for self-determination. Israel is trying to erase the Palestinian identity, the Palestinian collective memory, the Palestinian narrative, and replace it with an Israeli one.
Ahad Othman has been a teacher at UNRWA for 3 decades. He's out of a job now, but he's more worried about his students and what will happen to them without schooling.
When you throw the students onto the streets, what future will they have? Shufat is the only refugee camp in Jerusalem, and the camp can turn into an epicenter for drugs, weapons and gangs. So it's only a question of time until they go in a bad direction.
Sending children to private schools could be an alternative to avoiding an Israeli curriculum. But here in this camp, hardly anyone can afford it. Mohammed would like to become a lawyer one day, he tells us, but without further education, that dream will be impossible to realize.
Fanny, how demoralizing have these school closures been for Palestinians?
It's very difficult actually right now when you're speaking to parents who didn't tell us on camera but off camera, trying to wrap their minds and their head around the fact where to bring their children, because as the report points out, of course, there's always the private school as an alternative, but who can afford that? So what we have seen actually play out in that camp, in Shufat camp, that some former UNRWA teachers voluntarily come together in so-called, let's call them makeshift centers. Obviously, we couldn't film them because they are fearing that this could be raided and that they could be detained, etc. But they're voluntarily trying to teach the children, even though the certificate they will receive at the end of the school year will likely not be officially accepted by Israel, because officially these UNRWA schools do not longer exist. And overall, I also realized while speaking to people both on and off camera that there is this increasing fear, what is next? Because even if these students could be integrated in so-called public Israeli schools, the question is access. And I'm not only speaking about mobility, trying to get through checkpoints, but there's also a surveillance, a digital surveillance that's been increased and intensified since October 7th. So a lot of students are in fact concerned what they can share when it comes to Palestinian identity, Palestinian history. And with the closure of the UNRWA schools, they're asking themselves who will actually teach them in the future when it comes to Palestinian history and their identity. So this school closure is just one part of a much bigger cake, if you like, where a lot of Palestinians, of course, feel very much collectively punished for what happened on October 7th when Hamas militants killed hundreds of Israelis.
Fanny Facsar in Jerusalem, thanks so much for that.